And we're back. We're back. We're back. Here we are. Totally new place.
New studio.
For those of you not watching and only listening, I'm going to describe real quickly. We have a studio now. It has a little bit of a wood backdrop. It's got a screen between us. We're still sitting at the table.
Panels too.
Sound deadening is going on like crazy. We have 3 cameras, one for me, one for Paul, and one for the wide shot. There will be a lot of learning. You guys are going to get used to this. We're going to get used to this. We're going to learn how to use the screen. We're going to try to keep this very audio friendly. That is important to both of us.
Yeah, for sure.
But the big thing to know is this is podcast 1001. We're going to try to do as many of them in studio as we can now to get around our travel. We're going to go to 1 a week. They're going to be roughly 90 minutes. So we're going to cover everything in every episode, including your questions. So this episode has news, a topic Tuesday, car debates, car conclusions. It has other random rants. I have something I want to talk about in film. We're going to get to your questions. I expect it to be every bit of 90 minutes. And if you're just listening to this, thank you for being with us up to this point, and we look forward to thousands more episodes, I hope. If you're just finding us on video, I don't know.
Wow.
Just finding us right now on video, I hope you enjoy it in the video format. It is available on Spotify with video. It's now called the Video
Spotify for creators.
Thank you. So
Everyday Driver Video Car Debate is where it's at.
If you're looking for video on Spotify, but otherwise, if you're just trying to get it on audio, it's all the places you've normally gotten it. This should have popped up right now on your subscription feed automatically, and it will drop as a video on YouTube at noon on Tuesdays going forward. So that's all the kind of, hey, guess what, we're back stuff, the house cleaning stuff up front. And because we're learning, I'm sure the studio will change over time. I'm sure we'll figure out lighting fixes and ways to do other things.
I want to upgrade this table. There's still lighting coming. There's more sound deadening. But, at least we've got the bones of the new studio, which is nice.
We are actually able to podcast as of today. We're sorry it's been so long. We have been traveling. I wore the COTA shirt.
I know you did.
In memory of the fact that we just got back from that massive COTA trip. 5,000 miles, like 14 states. It was crazy. And we haven't even released any of the videos from that yet. They're coming. And we've got probably, I think it's going to be either 4 or 5 videos. It might be 6, but I think it's 4 or 5 videos. They're going to come out in a series, one every 2 weeks. We've got different cars in every video, which I'm very excited about. Incredible roads nationwide. So that is coming in addition to a bunch of other stuff from us. But every Tuesday, new podcast.
This is pretty awesome. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being patient. And we've got so much to cover. There's been so much car news that has happened between our giant trip and now. So we've got to dive into a few things. We've got some press cars to cover. By the way, you've been driving the new Genesis G90 around.
I have been driving the G90.
You've been chauffeuring your family around.
I have been chauffeuring everybody I could find.
Yeah,
so the Genesis G90 is back. We had it, I don't know, a couple of years ago we had one. And we really, really liked it. And my whole family liked it. I took everybody out in this one as well.
Really liked it.
This is an executive sedan. This is the modern day Phaeton in a lot of ways. It is the less expensive super sedan. This one was white, sadly. I didn't love that. But it had a nice kind of brown and maroon interior combination that was really, really elegant. Inside, white, it was white. It was fine.
It was fine.
This is not an amazing looking car. It's subtle in that area. When you look at the new S-Class, you look at the LS from Lexus, those are a lot more shouty than this visually. But this is what Lexus has done since they first released the LS. It's all the stuff you get with the other brands, but done a lot cheaper. Now, it's a $100,000 car. My dad kept going, I'd love to have one of these if they were 30. It's like, well, yeah, Dad, nothing is anywhere.
I keep thinking pickup trucks are $100,000.
No, here's the thing. Hardly anything's below 30 anymore. This has got heated everything, cooled everything. It actually, here's an update since the last one we had. It now has door close buttons for front and rear.
That is the thing,
because the doors are way out there. They're way out there. You got to reach for the door. So you actually can hit buttons on the console to pull all the doors closed. So there's that. But I mean, full executive seating in the back, heated, cooled, massaged, and all four. It was a wonderful place to be. I did multiple airport. It just happened that I did multiple airport runs in the last week.
That's what it's for.
It was superb.
You were the livery driver.
I was the livery driver. Now, it's a big executive sedan with soft suspension. Even in sport mode, you're kind of like, this is kind of big and floaty, but who cares?
But who cares?
That's not its point.
No.
This strikes me as this is the buy in this market segment.
Yeah.
It's the one that if you want to talk, I hate to say affordable. It's the affordable one when the Germans are $150,000 plus for the one from the Germans. So this is 50% less, which is crazy to think about. So there's that. But most people that buy these, this is the problem with this market segment. It's why the Phaeton dropped. The Phaeton, there is no second buyer for cars like this. So I think the deal is going to be used ones of these are going to be amazing. And I'm very curious, and people have brought it up. Of course, you buy the LS because you want it to run for 15, 20 years. But the people that buy these executive sedans have them for 2. They lease them and they dump them. So what is the longevity of this G90? I don't know, but it is so much car for the money.
I like it so much.
It's
such a fantastic
It's the
car.
Phaeton. It's the Phaeton again. It's that thinking. A brand you don't expect, competes with all the big boys, with all the tech you could imagine. And honestly, I like the tech in this, usability-wise, more than I do the S-Class or the LS from Lexus.
The door closing is just the best on this thing. It's superb.
I don't know who hurt us and why we have to have help with doors, but I will at least give it to Genesis on this, that with the G90, the doors are way out there. And so having a button, because otherwise you're like leaning out of the car. So having a button in that regard is helpful, even though it feels absurd, but it's very nice.
It's absurd and excellent. Well, as we talked about, there has been so much news that has happened, so many other cars, test drives that we've done, press cars that we've driven since we've had this hiatus, this break. But the biggest news that has come out has been the Corvette. The ZR-1 has been announced, and shortly after, the ZR-1X. And I have a bone to pick with Corvette about the ZR-1X name, although, if you recall, in our 2018 film, American Original, we talked about the Zora coming, which is an homage to Zora Arkus Duntov, who can be considered the founder of the Corvette. 15 prototypes of mid-engine Corvettes were done under his watch. So really it does have it's a nice fitting thing. He pushed for the most performance. So this ZR-1 comes out. We were not invited to the press launch, even though I'm kind of glad we weren't, because we were at COTA just the week. Was it the week after?
It was at COTA less than a week before we were at COTA for our big event.
Just a week afterwards. So
really,
we were there.
Really close, yeah.
But then the ZR-1X comes out.
Yes.
And it's not named Zora. And I read articles saying that Zora was the invention of all of us. It was the invention or the word that had gotten out there that most people had thought it should be called the Zora.
Yeah. And however, most people were right, by the way. It should have been called the Zora. It should have been called
the Zora. But because Chevy came out with the ZR-1X, the extra, it doesn't have a story behind it. It's not that they said, well, the ZR-1X and they had a good reason for it to be called X instead of the Zora. They just actually resisted everybody calling it the Zora because they just wanted to do their own thing. So they call it the ZR-1X, but there's no real explanation. There's no good story behind it.
But they're not doing their own thing because X has become a designator, BMW leading the charge, for X means all-wheel drive.
Sure.
That's what they've done. They've said, well, if it's the ZR-1 rear-wheel drive and we added the E-Ray motor to the front, which is essentially what they've done, blowing away the front frunk and making it all-wheel drive on demand, so we actually get to amortize the E-Ray technology that we built. And, oh, look, it's all-wheel drive now. Well, that means it's a ZR-1, but all-wheel drive, so we should put an X at the back. This isn't even inventive. It's not even like they came up with something new. It looks like they're looking at others and going, well, X apparently is what means all-wheel drive, so it's the ZR-1X. They had an opportunity. I'm sorry, but they had an opportunity to call it the Zora. They could have called it the Zora. People are already calling it the Zora. This is a huge fumble because it looks to me like they're looking at others.
I agree. And they should have done this homage to anybody who really influences a car. And this leads us to Gordon Murray and some news about Gordon Murray.
Yeah.
But throughout the ages, there have been special designations for cars that are an homage to the person that really influenced. And some of the articles that I saw, they brought up Valentino Balboni for Lamborghini, the longtime beloved test driver for Lamborghini. So they had the Balboni edition Gallardo, and there was I think a Gordon Murray edition something else. They had the Ayrton Senna edition NSX. It made that car even more special. I've got the Senna NSX. So if they made the Zora
Zanardi or whatever, there
was a Zanardi, I think. Going. But you see the trend. They could have, they should have, they didn't, for no reason at all.
I agree.
It's poor thinking, poor planning, and it's against everything what the Corvette, the ultimate Corvette could have been.
It's against enthusiasts in that regard. And I promise you, there was a meeting where somebody who had say declared this is the all-wheel drive ZR-1. It should just be the ZR-1X, and we're done. And that is a fail. Now, having said that,
massive fail.
Having said that, we are about to sell our C8. Which is a Stingray. It's a lowly Stingray with 500 horsepower. The Stingray we have, the C8 we have, is fast. Stop whatever you've read that says it's not fast. It is a fast car. It's a 500 horsepower V8 mid-engine rear-wheel drive car. It is a fast car. You have the E-Ray above it because it's all-wheel drive. You have the Z06 above that, right? With its whatever its 600 horsepower flat plane screaming
almost
engine,
700,
crazy thing is that. So that's faster. But now we have the ZR-1 at 1,064. Which because more is better. Paul, you've heard this, right? More is just better.
What the Corvette's all about.
Everybody that's driven the ZR-1 that we've watched kind of can't get comments out. The car is so overwhelming that they just drive it like laughing children and they're done. Okay? Which says to me that most people that buy it, it's going to be a total bragging rights car and they're never going to extract what it can do. And now we have the ZR-1X, because it's all-wheel drive, Paul. Above that, with 1,200 horsepower, we are in the realm of, we're so far into lack of usability here. Now, I understand the argument. The argument is we are competing with hypercar numbers with a Corvette badge on the front, and it's going to cost a fraction of those. This is probably going to be a $250,000 car, certainly with markups.
Every bit.
It'll probably be more than that with markups. Probably over 300 grand with markups.
Sure.
But the argument will be, look at all the power you get for the money, which has always been a Corvette thing. I get it. We are so far out of the realm of usability, I don't even understand it.
It's like Corvette has already done what every hot version of anything will do to a car. We already made it 800 horsepower. For you, instead of buying the 600 horsepower 650 old Z06 and I put a even bigger turbo on it, or 2 turbos or 5 turbos or whatever.
Why tune it? We've already given you 1,200 horsepower
for everyone.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
They want, as you said, they want to compete against the supercars, the hypercars. But what happens to those hypercars? The higher in price you go, and the more power and the more absurd they are, I think the less they get driven.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes.
The less they get driven.
For sure.
So therefore, what do you do with a 1,250 horsepower, ostensibly? It may make even more, because now we're reading things about how the regular old ZR-1, not the stupid X, is making even more power at the wheels, which means it's like 1,100 and change at the crank, which will make the ZR-1X... What a stupid! I can't believe
we really can't get past it. We really, it's terrible. It really is.
But it's not forgivable because Chevy doesn't have a good reason otherwise.
No, I agree.
There's not some grand story that's acceptable.
There's not even history where they can be like,
you
used the X. Of
course you use the X.
No, BMW says it's all-wheel drive, so we did it too. That's really all I can come up with.
What a terrible decision. So therefore, I think it made it less special.
Interesting.
The name alone, if it's the
Zora, I agree with you.
You know what? That's right.
Markup. You're right.
You would pay a markup. I got the Zora. It's not just any Corvette. It's not even the ZR-1. It's the Zora.
You know, you've brought up an interesting point because the ZR-1X is going to say to not everybody, but it's going to say to some enthusiasts, "Oh, you don't know how to drive? You had to get the all-wheel drive one." It is. Some enthusiasts are going to say that. You got the ZR-1 because it's a rear-wheel drive. You got the ZR-1X because you don't know how to drive.
And you can't handle the power.
You can't handle the power of a rear-wheel drive car. That's going to be a bit of the impression. Now, that's not going to be everybody. There's certainly plenty of people in plenty of hypercars that are all-wheel drive, and I get it. But to your point, if it was called the Zora, you would have gotten it anyway because it's the top one. It's the king.
You would just
ZR-1X suggests a trim variation.
Yes.
It's just the X. I wanted the all-wheel drive. I didn't want the Carrera 2. I wanted the Carrera 4.
But now all is lost. You cannot introduce the Zora and say we took your advice to heart. You can't have the ZR-1, the ZR-1X, and then eventually do some Zora unless with the 9th generation you appease all of us car enthusiasts, Chevy, because I still think you should. If you do the 9th generation and then you finally introduce the Zora, why wait? You could have had it now. But then what do you do with all these incredibly powerful Corvettes if you don't track them? And most people won't, because
of course
you don't track your hypercar. It sits.
You're right.
It goes to Cars and Coffee, and you brag about the numbers, and you let somebody imagine what those numbers translate into speed. But that also means you as a driver have to be very technically capable and skillful to be able to handle a car doing the things you imagine it can.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's a bragging rights thing. You're going to stand at Cars and Coffee or your local bar or wherever, and you're going to talk about what the 0 to 60 is and what the top speed is, even though you've never achieved either.
100%.
And we've seen this a lot. This is not limited to Corvette. I mean, I remember I told this story before. There was a guy here in Utah or Nevada that had a Koenigsegg, and he rented that strip in Nevada where everybody's high speed runs, and brought in a racing driver because he wanted to accomplish on camera it doing top speed. And I asked a question and just got blank stares back from the people doing post-production on the film. I was like, but he's not going to drive it that? Like, no, why would he? I was like, because how does he get to brag about it? My car does 250 unless he did 250. But it's a bragging rights thing.
Yeah.
And this is a part of the market. And I know I'm a car guy, and I get it. This is the place where I split. I would rather use all of a car regularly, my foot pushing against the firewall, than be able to say, oh, well, apparently my car goes this fast, and I've never even floored it. But this is a fantastic look.
Man.
Kudos to Chevy for the fact that this car exists, that it has this much power, that people are driving it and it isn't killing them. I mean, here's the thing.
Well, we don't know yet because it's not in production yet.
No, true. No, the journalists haven't been killed by it. To a person, journalists have not wrecked the car so far. They haven't wrecked the car so far, which is a plus. But most of them, even the ones that I trust, that I believe, that know how to drive, are talking about the fact that it is surprisingly approachable for a 1,000 horsepower car. Okay. That is something that can be managed, and that is an accomplishment.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay, so I am very impressed with Chevy. I just think it's a naming fail.
Totally.
And we as humankind do not need power like this. We don't, except to stand around and brag about.
What do you do? The only
you don't do.
The only direction is down, and it's the Corvette T. I keep talking about the Corvette T.
Well,
the lightweight version, and make it the lightest Corvette that has ever been lightened up.
Well, but here's the thing: Corvette is starting to look like they are looking at Porsche, who has every possible variant of the 911. It's starting to look that way, where you could, what is your version of the 911? And I come back to, wouldn't it be interesting if the C9 Corvette is available with a manual again, and all the ways they can split it? Because here's the other thing you have to think about. Talking about it, the Corvette related to the 911, not only do you have all these trims we just talked about, but they all also come in convertible. So all the trims we're talking about are now doubled because they all come in convertible as well.
Right.
So this is 911 thinking. And I'm very curious to see what other versions they could make, and why not make a manual transmission trimmed down version. And if it had, it's almost Grand Sport thinking again, because the Grand Sport was the bodywork and
we
the
don't
suspension.
have a Grand Sport yet.
We don't. The bodywork and suspension of the Z06 with the engine of the lesser model.
Mm-hmm.
That should be available in the C8, certainly the C9 with a manual.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's quite a rant on Corvette. Again, all these podcasts are longer.
I still don't feel like we've given Chevy
we are not alone.
the vitriol that they deserve for coming out with the X. That is the worst name for a supercar. The ZR-1, awesome. ZR-1X, you lost me. I don't want one.
I am very curious if anybody
I want to drive it, but
has a take that is, you can't handle the rear-wheel drive one? I think with
that
ZR-1X,
is awful.
I think it creates that possibility. Zora wouldn't have, but ZR-1X. Speaking of things to rant about, did you notice that the Robotaxis have invaded Austin?
They have. I've been reading stuff about how they're kind of ignoring the speed limits, ignoring cops, and kind of misbehaving.
Well, and apparently they are robo-taxis with minders driving them too. So there's that. Look, there isn't a commentary other than to say that Elon Musk has been talking about robo-taxis for years and years and years, and you were going to be able to take your Model 3 and have it make money for you while you sleep. None of that's happened. But he did that dog and pony show at Warner Brothers last year where he shook the hand of a spaceman and drove around the lot, right? And it just felt so much like a movie production to me. I've already ranted about that. But he has hit one of his deadlines for these robotaxis being introduced in Austin. Now, Waymo's already existing in Austin. Waymo's had plenty of their own problems. They're way out front. What is this going to be in reality? We simply don't know yet. But we know that Austin, which is kind of, Tesla's become very Texas heavy. Austin now has robotaxis with or without actual Tesla hired minder, or in some cases, I read this, some cases they don't have a minder, but they have like a remote minder, like somebody watching it from a screen from far away.
They'll never not have a remote minder.
They'll
always, no, it's totally autonomous. No, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, the robots dancing at the last Warner Brothers party were all controlled behind the scenes. I mean, it's really hard to know what's smoke and mirrors here, other than you can take a Robotaxi with a Tesla if you don't want to take a Waymo in Austin. I guess that's a victory. I don't know. But at least it's happening, I suppose, after being promised for years and years and years. Other odd news, we're about to drive the Nissan Armada. I'm actually looking forward to it. It's been completely refreshed. Mm-hmm. The same week we're about to drive it, and that test drive will be coming. Nissan has announced the NISMO Armada.
People are asking if this was designed by AI. It might as well have been.
This is really odd looking because they wanted to put the red NISMO like lower trim on it, which is something that the NISMOs have had forever. I get it.
That's their thing. Yeah.
It's very strange looking. It looks like it has a weird it almost looks like it has a side skirt, like it's trying to be a fan car. You know how the fan cars always go a little too low? It looks like that on what is otherwise a huge behemoth of an SUV that I'm curious about, because the Armada does soldier on right now in that world with the SUVs like the Chevy and the Suburban and the Escalade and the Lincoln and that kind of stuff. It's soldiering on in that world as an alt. Talk about niches upon niches.
So here's a question. What is the performance version, the performance branding of Infinity?
It was the Black Series. What were they calling it for? What, Signature Series? What was it when Vettel was driving for them, for Red Bull, and it was an Infinity?
I forgot about that. Anyway, my point was they don't have one.
Not that we can think of right off the top of head.
The point is, right, there's no real like performance like Mercedes AMG, BMW Motorsport. You know, doesn't really have one. Mm-hmm. So for a new QX80, you could ostensibly buy one for less. This new NISMO version will have more power and be better performing than the QX80 for less money. So why should the QX80 exist is my question.
Well, I mean, product planning questions have come up a few times with Nissan. They've come up just a few times.
Why do we? Because this is going to be faster, ostensibly drive better, sportier, still have amount of space and luxury and tech.
Yeah.
And you're
what'll happen is you prefer the Infinity styling, which I've called before as the Infinity version of the Armada has looked like a narwhal forever.
I mean, but they have the new one, the refreshed.
I don't know how much better that would look, but they have that one.
It's
you
different.
Prefer the styling. You want a slightly more luxury appointments, and you don't like the Nissan brand. It's a branding thing. You prefer the branding of the quote unquote luxury brand.
It's still a Nissan.
It is still a Nissan. Speaking of, you just brought up AMG. Did you see the AMG that got announced?
I did see the AMG.
The AMG GTXX concept. So I have to
more power than a ZR-1X.
It does, because of course it's electric, and all power is all that matters. I have to set the stage because you have come down, rightfully so, on Mercedes up to this point because they had their EQ whatever.
Oh yeah,
and all the EQ had this very bulbous styling. And you're right, they absolutely threw that out. They were a sales disaster. This is the restart of their electric performance, and it actually looks a little bit more like a car. But I'm very curious of your thoughts. This is concept only, but this is one of those moonshot concepts where they say this is the direction we think we want to go. I'm very curious how it strikes you.
Here it is, the orange Mercedes, orange GTXX. EV, 1,340 horsepower, because you know somebody's going to ask you, like, what'll she do?
Because electrics can do that easily, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hurt the humans inside. They're going to feel sick, and they're going to get out and barf. It's going to be worse than any amusement park ride that you've ever been on.
Probably, yeah.
Now, there's small elements of Mercedes styling that I can find in here. But for the most part, it's an exercise in drag coefficient.
Yes.
In aerodynamic efficiency. Unfortunately, it's 1/10 less efficient than the Lucid Air that it's going after. Okay, so it's in the same ballpark. But nothing about this really screams Mercedes or a new design direction for Mercedes. It's really just an aerodynamic exercise. I can't call the shape beautiful, but the lines are nice above the belt line. You can see the hood shape. You can see that nice backlight, the center section, the center line of the car. No rear window, by the way.
Yeah,
and that nice rear fender shape. but how everything is resolved from the belt line to the ground doesn't look special, unique, interesting, or anything other than just needs to be there to enclose the car.
Well, and that was the thing with the EQ series, is all the EQ series were just bulbous form ideas.
A dropped pizza.
Well, but they were like, you put a drop of water in a wind tunnel and you saw what it formed, and you went, there's our car shape. Yeah. You already said it. Start swapping badges on this. This could be an Aston. It could be a Ferrari. It could be a Lamborghini. It could be a Porsche.
Infinity.
It could be an Infinity.
It could be a sexy looking Infinity.
It could be a Ferrari. You look at the rear. It could be a Ferrari. Yeah. This doesn't suggest Mercedes. It does. It is more interesting than the EQ series. But if this is the new direction, I think it just looks like a blending of a lot of other people's ideas. And I don't even know design, but I just keep imagining, like, I want a flip book of logos on the front, and we all just decide, what does this look the most like?
I could see, the Ferrari rear is just because of the circular taillights,
yeah,
which are very much a throwback to old school kinds of styling on the latest iteration of the hottest tech that we can put together in a car. But you know what? On the inside, there is deconstructivism going on. If you look inside, so you'll see the center console and you'll see all the things that you interact with are very simple shapes. The door pull in the door and the actual armrest, it's just a pole. It's just bolted in.
Yeah,
it looks nice and cool materials, but it's just a post bolted into the door to help you shut the door. It's just a leather pull to open it.
Sure.
And the air vents might as well just be hoses like they are in a race car. They just happen to have a nice bezel surrounding them.
Which is going to be interesting when they try to actually apply super luxury to this concept.
Yes. I don't feel like anything about this is Mercedes unless we accept the fact that Mercedes is going full aerodynamic efficiency, and that anything with aerodynamic look, streamlined look to it is really the whole point of a Mercedes at this point. And I think they've achieved that. The wheel covers are actually aerodynamic as well, so they contribute to the efficiency. But I can't say that I look at this and think, wow, is it beautiful, and what a cool-looking Mercedes. It's still a concept.
I agree. Speaking of concepts, I'm going to position us and move us to wow, it is beautiful. And that is the current Mazda got a bump this week, the Mazda Ioniq SP. This is a spectacular-looking car.
Yes, it is.
I want one yesterday. If it looks like this, I want one yesterday. And also, can I fit in it? Because I didn't fit in the RX-7. But the idea is that this just got a bump this week, and I don't know if this is a real thing or not. This feels like, right now it feels like internet hype to me. But it got a bump on all the news cycles this week that they really say it's coming now. Now, we'll see. I hate talking about concepts, but I'm only bringing it up because I really do love the way this looks. And I hope it is what it suggests itself to be, which is sensual, flowing, lightweight, interesting, positioned above the Miata. I like everything about what I'm hearing. I just don't know if it's true.
We can hope.
Let's
continue on, remaining in hope. I mean, it still gets teased, so I guess let's put it this way.
Okay.
Mazda has to do something next.
Yes.
Something
Agreed.
next
yes.
to sell cars has to happen.
Yes.
It'll be this or it'll be something ugly.
Well, Mazda avoids ugly pretty well.
And generally,
but
Mazda doesn't really do ugly.
Yeah, but they need another sports car in the lineup. They do.
80% there?
And I'm sure this is going to be because they want to carry forward the Rotary because it's their science project and they cannot let it die, and they should. But you know what this needs?
Yeah.
This needs to be big enough to take the straight six that they just made for their SUV.
Yes.
It needs to take the straight six in the front, and now we've got something.
Ooh.
But it'll probably be a Rotary hybrid thing while they try to – what's going to happen here, here's my prediction, that it's going to have a Rotary that drives the hybrid system. And I'm not making this up because this has already been rumored, but just so they can say, see, we really have found a use for our Rotary science project. They keep trying so hard to make the Rotary viable, and it has been quite difficult to do that. Last bit of news is a little bit sad. Gordon Murray, legendary F1 car designer, the McLaren F1, the current cars from him, the T33 and the T50, he has announced he has esophageal cancer, which is scary. I mean, he obviously is an older guy, but it's terrible news to get. We wish him the best. We hope that there is really good treatment coming, but that was kind of a shock announcement that he's just done. And I mean, he is, and I do not use this term lightly, he is a genius. Yeah, some of the stuff he's come up with is that total out-of-the-box thinking where everybody else is doing this and somebody goes and goes, I'm going to try this, and it works. He's done that his entire career. He's a really iconic designer and engineer in cars, and I'm very curious to hear this update. I was sad to read this news, but it is a bit of news from him as well.
Yes, we saw that he has undergone successful keyhole surgery at this point, and he caught it early, so we are wishing him recovery, the best. Gordon, we need you around. The automotive world needs you around for a long time. Heck, the world needs you around for a long time. So we're wishing you the best in recovery.
That was just news. We told you a longer podcast. That was just, but you and I have been away for a while. There was news to catch up on. Our topic Tuesday, they're all going to be Tuesdays from here forward, but our topic for this podcast, keep in mind, we got car debates coming. We've got car conclusions coming. We have your questions coming. There's a lot more coming on this podcast. But, by the way, I like this use of the screen real quick. For those of you that can't see, we are playing photos of our past reviews on a screen in the middle of the studio, and right now it's showing the GR86 versus the Cayman, but it's flipping through those, and it's been reminding us of all the stuff we've done in the last 20 years worth of reviews, and there'll be more of those photos coming, so that's really very cool. Our topic for the day is the problem with Porsche. Not your Porsche specifically, the brand at large. The problem with Porsche, and I'm sure we're going to get hate mail. But it's okay. There are brands to discuss, and we thought we'd start here with Porsche. And this was a topic that you and I first thought of when we were driving the new 911 GTS T Hybrid. We started driving it, and we started talking about the T Hybrid.
The E-Hybrid is
Panamera. The one that I have, the plug-in hybrid.
Sorry.
The T Hybrid is their new split hybrid thing with the electric motor in the middle of the turbo, the whole craziness that is fantastic technology. But it got us talking about where the 911 is, and then that kind of branched out. There were multiple meals when this conversation happened. So we wanted to share it with you guys, the problem with Porsche, because the sub-headline is, has Porsche lost their way? Or is Porsche missing obvious opportunities? A big place that you and I both went is, and I'm gonna take it on the nose here. I'm gonna act like the instigator here, even though I know you back me on a lot of this.
It's all good. It's all good.
I think Porsche has reached a place where the 911 is holding them back.
These are big words.
I know.
There's
a ton of variants of the 911.
Words.
Because the 911 was carried forward in the 80s, and you can watch our 50 Years of 911 film, we talk about it at length, because it was carried forward in the 80s, and the 928, which was supposed to be its replacement, was killed, and it's carried forward. It has had to, but because of what the 911 is, and it's beloved, it's the last rear-engine car. There are plenty of folks out there, journalists, like crazy, and tons of car collectors who, the minute they buy a Porsche 911, they buy nothing else. Nothing else matters. All that matters is the 911. And I want all of those guys to drive all the mid-engines of the world, because it's not just 911s that feel really cool. But anyway, there's a lot of cool things about the 911, but they had to keep it rear engine. They had to keep it that shape. But then they had to adhere by all of the changes in people's expectations and regulations and safety to carry the 911 forward with all the baggage that it has to have, which is must be rear engine, must have cool light front end steering, must be 2+2, must have this shape. That's the baggage. But now it also must be bigger, safer, faster, have all the latest tech. And what we've watched happen is the 911 has grown flat out too big and way too expensive. And they have so many versions that now you have a whole year's worth of journalistic content that just discusses them driving all the variants of the new 911 and talking about which one is right for which person, because there's like 20 variants. And you can't make a car in the lineup above the 911. It has to be the fast one. You have to end up with the GT3, or in this case, they're going to make a new GT2, super turbo. The turbo 911 with four-wheel drive and all that kind of stuff is a world-beating car every time it comes out. So when they make their hypercar, their halo car, it has to be above the 911, but in such limited supply, it doesn't actually limit the 911. And then after it's been out, like look at the 918, or look at the Carrera GT before it. Awesome cars, but made in such limited edition that, and shortly after they stop making them, guess what happens? The new 911 comes along and beats it on Nürburgring time
which
or
is
speed
also
or whatever.
always weird.
The
It's
911,
cool but weird.
So here's why I think the 911 is holding them back. They're trying to make a 911 for people that have an image of what a 911 should be. But the people that really want what a 911, I hate to say this, should feel like are buying old ones. That's what the 911 should feel like. The 997 and before, and I'll go as far as the 997 because that is, in my opinion, the last truly great 911 size and chassis. But I'm going to go all the way to Singer.
Okay.
Singer, Toot Hill, what's the one that starts with a G? I'm forgetting.
I have a list of 21.
You have please give me the list of all the people that make special 911s. Give me that list, and then I'll continue my rant.
I'm so glad you said this because we've had a lot of time to think about this.
We have. We've been talking about it a lot.
And you just identified they're smaller. They need to be smaller.
Yes.
And that's the problem with the current 992.
Singer uses the 964.
It's too big and too heavy.
Yes.
I mean the 992,
the current 911 being
too
sold
big, too
new.
heavy.
Yes.
That car can't get bigger or heavier. It just can't. From here forward, we can't go bigger and heavier with it. So what do? You got to go backwards, and that's why everybody loves these older ones. So here's the list.
Please.
Singer vehicles, reimagined by Singer.
That's a 964 911.
911 by Gunther Works.
Gunther Works, that's what I was thinking of, yes.
Cage Automobile, that is Kaege, Cage Automobile GmbH. Gambala.
You're right, yes.
Toot Hill.
Yes.
Roof. R Group. Magnus Walker.
Yeah.
Theon Design. Rod Emery, even though he's doing more 356s, but he still will touch 911s.
But that's classic 911 though.
That's classic.
That's
classic.
pre 911.
Correct.
356s. Yeah.
It's even smaller and lighter.
Yeah, exactly.
Strat Porsche in Miami, which is STRAAT, Strat Porsche. Paul Stevens, he's a well-known builder in the UK, so the PS Auto Art Speedster. The Auto Active Motorsport Lightspeed Classic.
Oh my gosh.
RWB.
Oh yeah.
The RSR Project. Yet a completely different car.
Yes.
There's two Kalmar cars. The Kalmar in conjunction with Canepa Design, and then just the Kalmar rebuild. Lab 11 in Italy. We saw the Lab 11 cars.
You're right. Yes.
Oil Stain Lab HF11, and the reason it's called HF11 is because it's half a 911. So HF.
Yeah.
And they've done their own car. The new HF11 is actually gorgeous, and I want it.
It's
and
very
it's beautiful.
crazy. It's very crazy.
Hey, 911s.
Yeah, they are.
But the foundation and the thinking was from a 911, so rebuilding 911s, Rossport Racing, and Kelly Moss. Remember doing all the lifted, the off-roaders, and that doesn't include all these single custom builds. These are just the well-known
These are the
builders
folks you
out
can
there.
go order something from.
That doesn't include one-off builders. You've done it yourself. You've had your own race shop
Lee
build
Keane
it.
makes his rally cars.
Correct.
There's a bunch of others. Yeah,
I mean, he's done his kind of his own thing. He's a builder, but he's not more the mainstream necessarily. There are fewer makers of Shelby Cobra replicas than there are 911 builders. Rebuilders.
That's a shocking sentence.
Restomodders, outlaw builds.
Yeah. I mean, you've totally hit on it. But here's where that takes my brain. This tells me that the 911 is not what it should be.
Right.
And it also tells me, when you look at the prices of Singers and Gunther Works and these kind of things, you can't touch any of these big builders for less than $500,000.
Just crazy.
And when Porsche sells their hypercar, 918 Carrera GT, that kind of stuff, those typically are $1 million at most. They're often like $500,000 when they sell them MSRP.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So my point is, the buyers are out there to buy cars this expensive. The people that really want a 911 experience are willing to spend $500,000 at least and not blink at years' worth of waiting to get one from a manufacturer that isn't Porsche.
Or it's the way they want the 911 to be.
But my point is, Porsche takes their engineering prowess, their build quality, their ability to offer a warranty and parts, and starts selling, essentially, Singers. That's what the 911 becomes. They sell Singers and Gunther Works. It's all bespoke. It's their Sunderwunsch special wishes. It's just, that's the way you get a 911 now, because that market exists. And then they allow whatever's above the Cayman to be something else. It is their, I hate to say it this way, it's what the 928 probably would have grown into. It's that car, because that's what the 911 is becoming more and more like, is a 928 with the engine in the wrong place. It's really what it's becoming. But the 911 is this thing they can't get past. It's the baggage of the brand. And this is the secondary thing. You and I are, me much more so than you and I are way out on a limb and somebody's behind us with a saw, okay? Journalists are not allowed to critique Porsche.
Right.
There is a thing, and we've mentioned it before, but I want to hit on it again. We discovered it kind of by accident when we got into this business, that every automotive journalist out there is fighting tooth and nail and stabbing each other in the back and doing stuff behind people's backs and trying to build the perfect Porsche version in order to get on Porsche's good side, to go on Porsche's trips.
And say all the right things to be able to get eligible to go on the Porsche trips or get press cars, whatever it is.
You and I did 50 years of 911 in 2013 because we thought it was a cool idea for a film. That was the beginning and the end. And we pulled it together and thought everybody else was going to do one, and nobody else did.
Yeah.
We didn't get any kudos for that. We didn't wind up on any lists, and it was also not the reason that we did it. If you read most journalists' take on a Porsche, especially a 911, the sentence in there will be, Porsche's done it again. It's the best 911 ever. Everybody else should just take a lesson from Porsche because they've done it again. Most impressive 911. No. The best 911s, I'm putting it out there, are behind us. The GT3 RS is a fantastic track car, full stop, I agree. However, the best 911 experience is behind us. Porsche's making a different car now, and they need to move on from that rear engine configuration and throw all of their engineering at making these world beater cars that are great dailies, and if you get the GT version, a great track car. But no one is willing to critique Porsche because the journalists want the brass ring of, I got invited on the Porsche trip. And Porsche, I will admit it, they throw great trips. The journalist trips for Porsche are fantastic.
That's true.
The stuff they did for the Dakar and the racetracks they rent, there is no expense spared.
Kyalami in South Africa for the turbo.
They're
and
incredible
they
trips.
Actually did.
There's a reason journalists fight for this, but you will
Yes.
notice you do not see critiques of Porsches in mainstream journalism. And I feel like everybody will have a conversation about the poor engineering of everybody else. But you never hear like, Porsche, why'd you do that? Now, admittedly, Porsche does fantastic engineering. They do some incredible stuff. This was the thing about the T-Hybrid. Incredible stuff. But you never hear anybody come down on Porsche's engineering. And I am not enough of an engineering to find the faults, but they got to be there. They're not perfect, okay?
Okay.
But you never hear about it. But I will give you one. The era from late 90s to early 2000s, IMS bearing, and the delaminating, de-chunking that happens with those engines. These are known issues.
Porsche went through a period of time where their finances were not in great shape and they reused a lot of things, and I think they cut corners, and that happened, yes.
So that was Boxster, Cayman, 911.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Those have known engine problems. Also, the GT3 that came out with the 991, they replaced all the engines of the first run.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's my question.
With 10-year warranties, and now those warranties are running out, and now those cars are cheaper, and would you buy one?
But look, let me say this from two sides. First off, most manufacturers you can think of that have some sort of catastrophic thing in their pantheon of their sports cars. That is not unique to Porsche. I'm not coming down on them as special for having done that. What I am bringing up is, why does this not get discussed? You mentioned GR86, and all of you watching, all of you listening, can list for me the reasons why you're not supposed to buy one because the engines are terrible. You can mention
and this is Toyota for crying
E46 BMWs or lots of other BMWs, and people will list for you all of the known engine problems. You list Porsche, and way down the list, somebody will be like, yeah, but there is the IMS bearing and the other thing with the chunking of the end. But it's so far down the list.
But it's forgiven instantly.
Yes. And percentage-wise, it's every bit as high, or in some cases higher than some of these other engine issues we're talking about. But no, it's Porsche. It'll be fine. Why? And I'm just saying, I'm just asking for equality here is all I'm saying.
You're right. I think I can identify, and I have product planning for us to discuss,
Okay.
some reasons why the 911 is holding them back, but also the product planning where they need to go from
Love it.
here.
Go.
Because the 992 is too big and too heavy.
Yes.
You can't get bigger and heavier for the 992. It's not going to be the 993.
It can't be the 993. They did that already when they decided to go completely non-numeric order.
Is 994 available? But then it's completely whacked and out of order.
It's already out of order. No, that ship sailed, buddy. We went I have to hit it again. We went 996, 993, 996, 992.
Yes.
And for as genius as these engineers are, I know they know numbers. How did that not drive all of their OCD completely off a cliff? How are we this far out of order? Anyway, the 994, let's say. Yeah.
Maybe that's what it'll be.
Yeah.
For the record, should anybody try to give me a 911, or should I win any contest where I win a 911, I will happily accept. I want a 911. I want any of the 21 builders' products that I've named. I want one. I would love to own one. Yes is the answer. I love Porsches.
I'm on the record saying that if you're going to buy a track car, I've said it many times and I'll say it again. If you're going to buy a track car, the first thing on your list should be current 992 GT3 RS, and everything else is starting at like fourth. The car is fantastic.
Heck yeah.
Okay, it's
Heck
a fantastic track car. There's no question they make great cars. Sorry, go on.
Porsche love here. But first of all, let's start at the top, and that is the CEO of Porsche currently. As of this recording, the gentleman's name is Oliver Blume.
Yep.
And I went digging. We've heard his name. Not only is he CEO of Porsche, he is CEO of Volkswagen Group in its entirety. This is a CEO of two brands, even though they have a lot of history together and there was a lot of interconnected and related parts way back in the day.
Sure.
They've become two different brands with two different ethos, with two completely separate markets, with the same CEO applying what I believe is the same decision-making and thinking, because how can you not? How can you switch yourself as the CEO of one brand and think, let's go all in and make the hypercar and do this, and Volkswagen, why do we need GTIs anymore? Let's make uninteresting, non-compelling, non-drivers kinds of things, which is Volkswagen Group.
You've hit on something interesting.
CEO for both companies.
And I don't know that this is the reason. You've hit on a great thing, because the reality that I've mentioned before is 20 years ago, just about everything Volkswagen made had some sort of, Farfenugget. It had some sort of kind of fun, kind of quirky, kind of interesting. All of that got rounded off of Volkswagen, and now Volkswagens in general are just kind of bland. Is Porsche following along behind?
Which is my question. Now, I have a lot of respect for Oliver Blume. I've read his biography. He's an engineer. He has worked for Seat. He's done Volkswagen Group stuff. He's worked for Audi. He's been in that company. He knows all the inner workings. He has made his way up the ladder. Mad respect. He's an engineer by training, and a really good one from what I understand. Incredible guy. But I disagree that you should be CEO for both companies whose directions are split, whose focus is split.
Interesting.
The entire thing. What other car company on the planet has their high-end performance racing, Le Mans winning, incredible luxury high-end sports cars, the same CEO trying to do kind of basic transportation, which is in the name, the car of the people?
Well, and you bring up a point. There's a lot of these conglomerates, but there may be a figurehead, but each of the sub-brands has their own kind of
They're
guy driving it.
by a different person. So I think, Oliver, you either need to take Porsche on and forget Volkswagen, but I think you should really take Volkswagen and let somebody with a new vision who hasn't been in the Volkswagen company group for a long time, maybe an outsider. I know that's weird, especially in Volkswagen Group. An outsider to come in and really shake things up and bring this perspective, because I think that first of all is holding you back. I think Porsche having the CEO of both, I don't know what decision making is going on, but I feel like I felt a hint of it when I pushed the start button on the 992.2 GTS and went, this feels like a Volkswagen button.
I bet it is a Volkswagen button.
Even if it's not, Volkswagen parts should not make their way over to where the Porsches are made. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't even know each other exists. But because of cost cutting and because this is a business for profit.
Yeah, of course.
Decisions like that are going to be made. And I see this crossover. Yeah. And that was the first thing. And I touched it. We touched it.
You have to. You can't avoid it. You have to touch it, start the car.
Ick.
Yeah, well,
that feels like Volkswagen Group. Oliver, what are you doing?
I've mentioned before that the base versions of the Cayman have a Golf quality interior.
Yes. So I think that alone is, and that's just comes from a business making.
Of course.
Business decision.
Absolutely. Yes.
If there were a different CEO running Porsche, you can bet that person, ooh, Volkswagen Group, you can keep your stuff over here. That's great for you. We over here at Porsche do it differently. Yes, we're under the same brand. Yes, we're under the same conglomerate. But you know what? We think differently. We're going to do things differently. We're Porsche, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So why doesn't Porsche want a piece of the market that we identified? They did that 993 Project Gold.
Yeah.
But that was a one-off. And they've done other special one-offs.
They do tons of special stuff for folks. Yeah.
They want a piece of that. And the answer is because all of the cars that we name those builders is because they're lighter weight. Every single one of them focuses on the lightest of the light, and then people drive them and go, this is automotive nirvana. And I don't blame it. And I want one of them. I want all of them. I actually thought, would it be great to start a car collection and I own one of all of them?
That sounds really cheap. Super cheap.
Yeah. And we drive all of them and compare all of them, the minutia quality. We don't need to do this. No. But at least we start all the engines. So all 21 of those builds with all the flat sixes all sounding differently. And
my gosh. But but hang on. And I know we got a Lotus on screen right now. I'm not actually just saying this for Lotus reasons, but anytime somebody drives a genuinely light car, Lotus, but I'm also going to go GR86, Fiesta ST, Miata, Alpine A110, a genuinely light car in the modern time. Watch that person get out with a smile on their face. I don't care the brand.
Yeah.
Light is where the magic is.
Yes.
And in general, automakers, because of electrification and because of all of the safety stuff and because of all the junk, if you will, all the niceties we must have in our cars, have just gone, well, I guess weight doesn't matter anymore. And BMW has gone so far that BMW has gotten to the place where they're defying physics. But you climb into something genuinely light and you go, this is what I'm missing. And you haven't even realized it until you get in the light car and you go, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then heavy power doesn't matter. We're back to the ZR-1 again. Huge power doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And it naturally becomes engaging because you stripped away all the heaviness that makes it dull, that makes it just distant.
The Financial Times recently reports that Porsche's global sales slump that was driven by a collapse in demand in China has been so severe that North America is now its largest market. Let's move to product planning. With that thinking in mind,
sure.
Taking into consideration everything that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Reset the 911.
Yes, agreed.
I am in no way saying get rid of it. It's a superb, amazing. The design is classic and timeless, and anytime you want like the vintage photo shoot, yeah, there's cool Jags and Maseratis and old Ferraris, and then you bring out the Porsche and like, oh.
Yes.
Yes, it just works. It's still so modern and timeless and excellent. Make the next 911 smaller. Whatever number we decide on for the chassis.
Yeah, okay.
Don't build an EV version of it. Don't. All trim levels and versions, have at it. Do your thing. Fine. Maybe even pare those back.
I don't even think we need that many. It's ridiculous.
Make a gas-powered Cayman.
Yeah.
Mid-engine for street fun and GT4 class eligible racing, and an EV Cayman if you insist, if you keep wanting to do this EV Cayman.
Very curious
answer the question nobody asked.
Yeah, very curious to see what the response to that is. Ferrari actually announced this week that they're pushing back their next full EV car because they're realizing there's no market for it.
Yeah.
And I think this is Porsche's real problem with the new EV Cayman. We don't know, it's not out yet, but I think they're releasing that into a market where there's no buyers.
Bring back the Carrera GT.
Ooh.
But bring it back at the size of the McLaren 750 or maybe the Artura.
Okay.
So mid-engine, priced similarly, so this size could fit easily into the GT3 class racing.
Okay.
If we're going smaller with a 911 and we're not doing racing activities with it anymore, It doesn't mean it means the GT3 version of it doesn't need to exist anymore. It's smaller.
Sure.
It's going after all the other builders, the brands, the Restomotors, the Outlaws. So put a V8 into that.
Okay.
And this new flagship size from Porsche, while the 911 again gets smaller and lighter. So we've got two mid-engines, Cayman size and Carrera GT size.
I see it. I like it. Yep.
And those can go into the GT class racing, respectively.
Yeah.
The 911 exists over here, still smaller, lighter. Well, that's news. That causes sales. That brings up your sales slump. It's back, the thing that everybody craves for on the planet, which is why all these builders exist. That's news. That's new sales, Porsche.
You know what just struck me as you've talked about this? This is actually what Mazda's done with the Miata. Imagine if Mazda had done with the Miata what the 911 has done since the 80s, early 90s when the 911 came out. Imagine how big the Miata would be now. The Miata doesn't match anything else in Mazda's lineup. They make a Miata to be a Miata. It doesn't weigh much. It's small. It's the great defining thing, because here's 2 points. When you think Mazda, Miata is a key element of Mazda's existence as a brand in the same way the 911 is. But the Miata is defiantly different than the regulations and the size and the weight and the whole thing. Why can't the 911 be that? It has to be part of the brand. Why can't it be defiant, small, the 911 that everybody is now paying $500,000 or millions of dollars to get, the old version, make the new version of that in the same way that the ND Miata is much closer to the NA than the NC was. Be defiantly different with the stuff people liked from the past with the 911. And I love what you're saying. Make a bigger mid-engine, a smaller mid-engine, and then you and I have talked about forever, where is the cheaper Porsche? Probably never going to happen, but where is the cheaper Porsche?
Maybe 718, 356 could come back, but if we're making a smaller, lighter 911 that is on the more expensive level, bring the 912 back and make that as the small. You're still using those.
Amortize your costs.
Here we go.
Yeah, sure.
And then those are the less expensive. You still get maybe a flat 6, but it's not as crazy power or maybe as nice or higher performing as the smaller 911. We got to go back to smaller from here because if we keep going, the next super duper car, Porsche, whatever it is, you've called it the Mission X right now, but right now I'm hearing it might not even be an EV, even though it's been introduced in concept form as EV only. It is amazing. We saw it at Rennsport 2 years ago.
Very cool looking.
Incredible car. Maybe it's another hybrid. But ask Mate Rimac how his EV hypercar sales are doing, or the Pininfarina Battista, which is also a Mate creation.
Yeah.
How are those doing? All EV pure hypercar. Because at that level, with all the power, how do you make the 992.2 Manti Racing GT3 RS even faster than it already is? Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
More power? Well, now you've created a ZR-1X. What do we create? The GT3 RSX or all-wheel drive?
The RSX RSR edition by Manti Racing.
Do we stuff... Short of a cup car, you can go faster. A cup car, but that's not street legal.
But race cars are always faster than street cars. That's the other part, great weird lie about all this. And we prefer street cars. And Hooked on Driving, we welcome our street cars. But if you really want just fast on the track, you buy a race car.
I guess at this point, with this new T-hybrid technology, in the 911 Turbo, you can put 2 of them.
Of course you could.
And make... I don't know how much horsepower. Builders have gotten
it's going to have a comma in it.
Plus horsepower out of a 6-cylinder, a flat 6, which is astounding. And what's the shelf life of that engine? Does it come with a warranty?
It comes with a pit crew.
We're not sure. But what if the new turbo has the T-hybrid, twin T-hybrid electric turbochargers?
Is that the TT hybrid?
And will GT class rules allow that technology into the next GT3 and GT3 RS? Because that's how you make it faster, but they still haven't gotten smaller and lighter. And I say all this still wanting the current GT3 RS or GT3. I still want one. I just want one. I
phenomenal
want
track cars.
It.
Yeah, phenomenal track
they
cars.
They are incredible cars, but what if they were smaller and lighter and that Carrera GT came back and that's what you go GT3 racing with? Cayman is what you go GT4 racing with. And the 911 can exist and it's news. And Porsche, this gives you such news that you can bring the 912 back, and it gets you out of your sales slump.
Theoretically, I mean,
because
there's
people will still
here.
want it. A smaller, lighter 911, people will want that more than a newer, bigger, heavier one. And
based on what we're seeing with all of these builders you identified, everybody's going.
Yes.
Everybody that has the money goes backwards. And this kind of leads me to another thing that I want to bring up, and I'm going to get letters for this. I know I am. When you and I made 50 years of 911, okay, 12 years ago now, which is crazy. All right, that was 2013. I was very struck by the fact that we found all those 911s from private owners, and also struck by the fact that you and I have probably driven, in spite of my vitriol, more 911s from more eras than almost any journalist working right now.
Crazy to think about.
Because we went back to 1969 and drove them forward, or 67 and drove them forward.
67,
all kinds of versions.
Yeah.
The short wheelbase, the long wheelbase, you name it. We can talk 911, and we've driven them back to back to back to back, which is something that generally no automotive journalist that is currently praising Porsche can say. So we have a lot of experience, and there's tons of the old ones that I really loved, okay?
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was very struck by something, because we were also trying to put a Ferrari film together. And at the time, all of the 911 owners loved their 911s, but were always like heads on a swivel for other interesting cars. And they were welcoming, and they were warm, and they were very fascinated by their 911. Could tell you all the stuff, but they could also tell you the 3 or 4 other cars that they were really intrigued by. The Ferrari folks were, please go away, and Ferrari is all that matters.
Ooh.
Are Porsche owners becoming like Ferrari? And my thinking is yes, because the more I talk to 911 owners now, they wanted a 911, or they finally got into a 911, and no other cars matter. Oh, I used to own those, and I used to own these, but you know what? I'm just going to buy Porsches from now on. I'm going to buy old Porsches and new Porsches and old 911s and new 911s, and I used to own those other things, and I don't care about any of them anymore. They can't find anything worthwhile about anything that isn't some sort of 911 variant, unless, and look, I own Cayennes, unless they buy a Cayenne or a Macan for their wife. I have met more locked in, uninterested in anybody else, not willing to talk beyond the 911 owners in the last few years than anybody we talked to when we shot 50 years of 911. And that, to me, was the Ferrari owner thing. Now, maybe Ferrari owners are now like, hey, let's drive everything. I don't know. But I'm watching these ruts happen with journalists, with car owners, with Cars and Coffee, where we discovered the 911, and I guess we're done now. And there's a lot of cool cars out there, and they drive different, and they're fascinating. It's one of my favorite things when we take our road trips with people is people just swap keys. And you hear people talking about, what I love at dinner, somebody's talking about some car that they never even thought they'd sit in, and now they're like, I had no idea those were so great. And it's some mundane thing that was not on their radar. And the folks with the 911s on our trips drive other things and go, those are really great. But a lot of 911 owners, your typical Cars and Coffee, I got a 911, and now all I want is just a bigger, better 911.
When we shot the film, I noted that it seemed like all the Porsche owners were putting miles on their cars and driving them and driving the wheels off them and sharing them. And yeah. And I feel what you're talking about more and more. Now, I can't say that Ferrari's gone the other way, because Ferrari's always been like,
they haven't, but yeah.
Speck of dust got on my undriven car, get it off.
Yeah.
Like, now, that's not every Ferrari owner.
There's exceptions to everything we're saying.
Monica and Nugget drive the wheels off their car, and they want to drive it into the
everything
dirt.
We're saying. I'm aware of this. I know there are guys that buy 911 GT3 RSs, ring them out, destroy them against a guardrail, buy another one, and they're tracking the next weekend. There are those
Same
guys.
with Ferraris. They
There
use
those
them up
guys.
like a
You're
dirty
right.
dish towel.
Absolutely. There are those folks.
They wear
That's the
cars
exception.
out.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling what you're identifying, and I don't want that to happen.
Agreed.
Now, when we were driving all the cars on this trip, on this recent big two-week road trip, there were a few people, and you know who you are, who drove my GT4. And the reason I bought it is because I feel like it's the last of the last of the last. Will we get another Cayman that size? That I don't know.
And it's a great car.
So one of the reasons I got it is because I feel like I'm going to have it forever. I love it. But there were people who I think didn't like it. And I had to give them permission to say, it's okay to not like this car.
It's not for me.
Now, it's a hardcore version of it.
It is, for sure. It's a great car, though.
If you don't like it, that's perfectly okay. No is a perfectly acceptable answer. You can say, no, I don't like that. I'm not going to be offended. because there are so many great cars out there.
Yeah.
Find the one that is your jam that you do relate to, and you do have that feeling. I have that feeling, and I know it's not for everybody. And by all of this, we're not saying, well, you must like Porsches because they're the best, and because Caymans too. I'm like, you have my permission to not like my car after you drove it. Yeah. And I think people didn't. We're kind of going, yeah, maybe I just need more time to like come to grips with the car. Like, no, you don't. If you don't like it, you know right away.
That happened with my Amira too. There are people are just like, I just don't get it. And I was like, I understand. I totally get that it may not be for you. And then there are other cars people climb and be like, I love those now, and I never thought it was great. I want that for everybody driving. And that's the other thing I also want to understand. I know I especially, but both of us, we've spent quite a bit of time here talking about Porsche, and we've been hard on Porsche.
Yeah.
And it probably is shocking to many people because people aren't hard on Porsche. And I have to actually wrap this up by saying we are talking about cars that across the board are genuinely excellent to drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like Porsche's making stuff that's not interesting to drive and doesn't drive well, and then we have all these problems. We're talking about the stuff that doesn't get discussed on the basis of the fact, dang it, they made another good-to-drive car. And I'm curious about the EV Cayman and Boxster. My hopes are not high, but I'm curious.
Yes.
And look, I own 2 Cayennes from 2 generations. You've had a string of Porsches and continue to own them. They make great vehicles, but they are not immune to problems and to, I guess, how do I put it, reputation issues with owners and vibe. I just want, you and I talk about it a lot. We want everybody listening, everybody watching, we want you to love the car you drive. Find the car that just makes you go, I can't believe I have that, and buy that car. Every time you climb out of it, you're like, I have that car. I can't even believe it. I don't care if that cost you 10 grand or 10 million. I want you to have that feeling. And there are so many brands out there, and people, I got a little bit of money. I guess I'm just going to buy a 911.
There's other ones.
We're going to get letters.
But I want a 911.
We're going to get letters.
But that's me. I speak for me.
So that was just the topic Tuesday. We still have car debates, car conclusions, and your questions coming up. I also have a minor movie rant, so we'll get there.
Let's do it. Car debate number 1 comes from our board member, Phil. Phil M. writes to us asking how do they move on? Phil's writing this car debate on behalf of his MOF fiancée. Congratulations, but she has recently been promoted to Pope of Finance.
I've never heard of that before, but all right. Minister of Finance is now Pope of Finance. Apparently she does a really, really good job managing their money to get them into cool cars.
Christine, thank you for listening. Phil, thank you for writing. They're in Northridge, California, and Christine and Phil have been together since 2017. He says it was a refreshing new beginning for both of us. And part of that beginning was her moving on from the mid-2000s Corolla that her parents gave her.
Okay.
That year in 2017, Phil was driving a 2009 Honda Fit automatic, which he bought brand new and loved, and that influenced Christine to car shop in the hatch market. After much research, she settled on a used 2015 Honda Fit EX CVT, which she bought with the cash she had been saving up for years. But the struggle with saving that amount of money to buy a car that she wanted led to her attachment to the vehicle almost immediately. With a fit fleet, they proceeded to enjoy a fun relationship.
2 fits in the fleet. The fit fleet. Got it. Okay.
Frequent trips to Las Vegas for his bowling tournaments, enjoying scenic drives on PCH. They developed basing wrenching skills, and she was always happy with her car. The memories continued to pile up. Phil grew attached too, and she was finishing her post-grad study to become a clinical laboratory scientist and settling into her new role as the MOF. So she's one of the really smart ones.
I love it. That's great.
Over the next year, she watched in contentment as Phil's best friend Edward taught him to drive manual transmission. Then he discovered this show through the 4 generations of the Miata piece. He bought an ND1 Miata RF.
Cool, very cool. And this was his first rear-wheel drive dedicated sports car. And she actually loved sitting with him. They would actually listen to the car debate sometimes and talk about it. They both just kind of picked up the ability to just drive and have a fun car. So he was able to sell his 2009 Honda Fit, bringing them down to 2 cars, his Miata and her Fit. It was fantastic. He was able, because of her help, this is why she's Pope of Finance, by the way. She was able to figure out their finances well enough that he was able to move on from the RF to a GR86 in 2022, and he actually really liked that, but something about that car, he got into 2 wrecks with it and was like, okay, this car isn't working. And for some reason, it's not working for me. So he moved on from the GR86, which was hard for him, but he got a new ND3 Miata in December of last year. He is in love with that, but here's the twist. As of very recently, the Pope of Finance was in a wreck in her Honda Fit. They were hit by a 2025 Ram 1500 pickup, which, just picture this real quickly.
Big truck.
That's a big truck, and the Honda Fit is not a big car.
Yeah.
Guess who lost?
Yeah.
Sadly, Christine was ambulanced away from the scene, but that was mostly a check, thankfully. She is fine. But the hatch was essentially decimated by a massive truck. You'll be unsurprised to hear it's total. It's done. It was taken from them. She still feels sadness. Like they both kind of feel like they lost a member of the family. This car has been such a thing, and now it is gone. It's dead. In fact, Phil's gone to see it since, and it was like emotionally hard for him to see how damaged the car was and know they'll never get it back, which brings us to a combination kind of Topic Tuesday car debate question. How do they move on, and what do they move on to? They have sadness and nostalgia about losing this car. They love hatches because they're small, but they need that, but they're also just in mourning.
Yeah, Phil writes that these emotions are clouding their judgments in deciding on a replacement car. They both love hatches because they're small. They do the Costco runs, but he says, from this experience, Phil insists the next car have the latest modern safety tech like blind spot monitoring, even though it maybe is less important to Christine, but he definitely cares for her, obviously, so much. So the budget, without any insurance money, $20,000, Paul limiter of $25,000.
Okay.
Christine is 4'11", so it's got to be a small car, preferably a hatch. Not a deal breaker if it's not. Needs to be automatic because he doesn't want her to daily in LA in a manual, which of
Totally
course, absolutely agreed. Low maintenance. They are JDM enthusiasts. Relatively gas efficient. No V8s. Okay. Don't worry. Decent handling. Apple CarPlay. New safety tech. And no leather seats. Christine hates them.
Interesting.
He says he's stumped. They usually can figure something out. He never writes car debates. Phil, thank you for writing.
This is really great, Phil. Thank you. You and Christine, it's cool to hear from you. First off, I just want to touch on, we've talked before about when a car gets taken from you, you're not done with it yet. And a lot of times we say you need to get another one, but it sounds like you need to get something newer as well. So we're probably going to leave the Fit behind. I want to give you permission, not that I have that right, but I'm just saying I want to speak it. Take the time to grieve. Grieve about the fact that you lost this car. Also, please don't require this next car to have that deep connection that the Fit did. Go get a car because you need a car. Go to a car that meets your needs. It might. But if it does, it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Allow the next car to be car that meets your needs. If you fall desperately in love with it, bonus. If you have it a year or two and you're like, this isn't right, that's okay. You've had, this is my wife's Jeep Wrangler experience. She will tell you in one moment she'd like to have another one. It's her favorite car she's ever owned. She loved it, all the great memories and all the stuff. But then when she kind of sits for a second, she realizes that's not right for her life right now. And she's okay with that. She loves having a Cayenne because it's better for what she needs right now. But if you start talking cars with my wife, she'll wind up on Jeep Wrangler as the greatest thing ever. And you'll be like, why don't you own one? So
she
can
recognizes.
Yeah, okay. So you can have this experience you've had with the Fit. You can grieve that experience, but don't drag that into the next car experience. That's the main thing I want to say to you as we talk about options.
Autotempest.com/everyday. I went looking, started with a 2019 Toyota Corolla Hatch XSE.
Ooh, those are good.
The problem, Phil, Christine, is Toyota is soon to release the 2026 Corolla Hatchback FX in that really cool orange with the white wheels.
True.
The orange sickle car.
Yeah, but you can get the great blue if you get a used one.
You can get, you're right. The great blue. Just saying, there's updates on the 2026. It's more money, but I love that searing blue on the Hatch XSE. I thought of the Mazda 3 Turbo, automatic and really wonderful to drive. Excellent car, hatch, small. I think you guys would really love it. Plus, you already know that you like Mazdas, so
true. Yeah.
Just saying, Mazda 3 Turbo, ND3 Miata. Be a sweet looking garage. Highly recommend Mazda 3 Turbos, easily within your budget. I veered off into thinking about Mini Cooper S's and the 2022 Hyundai Kona N, not the N line. There's a lot of N lines.
Yeah. You got to get,
Got to be the N. That is a fun car. Automatic, well, DCT only as well.
Faster and quicker than it should be. I mean, it's weird because you and I are an SUV people. It's a lifted hatch. It's a great little car. It would really work here for Christine. I totally agree. Yeah.
But I'm really pushing on you. Hyundai Veloster N.
Ooh.
For your budget, $20,000, $20K, less than that.
Get a used Veloster N. I mean, does she want something that hot? That's really cool. Those are awesome.
I mean, great to drive. You can choose your transmission. You've got such unique styling. The latest, the last version of the Veloster N, small, cool, really fun to drive.
I like it. That's good.
And that would give you nice, rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, still useful.
Options, yeah.
Still got a hatch. It's just quirky and fun, and I think that's what you need to move on. Just something different, fun,
that's good.
Interesting.
Those
are my choices.
That's excellent. You went for more fun, actually. Phil, Christine, that is the more fun version. What I'm going to do is not as fun. It's a little more practical, but those are excellent. I really like that. I think you need to look at whatever you can get for your budget of the current generation Honda Civic. It doesn't matter which model we've driven. Every one of the current Honda Civic, that is just a fundamentally great chassis. It is not a large car exterior, but it has a ton of space. You can get a hatch or a sedan. We've driven hybrid. We've driven the base touring with the CVT. We've driven, of course, the Civic Type R and the SI. Every version we've driven is just competitive and excellent to drive in its class. So the current Honda Civic, I want you to look at that. I have to bring this up because the Honda Fit has become essentially the HR-V. And we drove it.
It's true.
And we liked it. It's underpowered, but it is straightforward, simple, well-built, and competent. It is just, we watch our test drive on it. We drove it and we're just like, there's nothing wrong here.
It's the Civic platform, right?
It's not, exactly. It's not super compelling. It's not like, everyone must have one of these. But we got in it and we're just like, there's nothing wrong with this.
HR-V Type R.
Sure. So it's not very powerful, but I don't think you need that. If you're looking for a commute car, that is the Fit moved forward in time. So I do wonder about that car in that regard, the HR-V. It's not for everybody, but I think it might work for you, Christine. The current Prius, drive it. That is a cool car. Looks cool.
About the Prius.
It's got a hatch.
It's great.
Commuting is what it does.
It's great.
That's what it's best for.
Yeah.
That's what you need it for.
And it looks great.
And it looks phenomenal. And if it doesn't drive interestingly enough for you, Phil, and I do understand that, we did wheels and tires and it transformed the car just that. And we didn't lose much on miles per gallon. Watch that series that we did. So current Prius is excellent. I have two wild cards because I don't know that they're right. One is the Mini Cooper that you brought up.
I was waffling about that.
That's the personality that you want.
Yeah.
Okay. The Fit has a surprising amount of personality. The Mini Cooper has good personality. There might not be maintenance that you want because now we're moved away from Japanese cars, but it is interesting. And then the other one, it could also fit your life in the same way the Prius does. Chevy Bolt. We're talking about an LA commute car. It's a hatch. It's easy to use. It gets great range.
It is kind of fun too.
Easily. For what it is, it's interesting and fun. It's not a fun car full stop, but it is a well-engineered, good dynamic hatch that happens to be an EV. A little bit of a wild card there, but I think it's worth bringing up as well.
Christine, we're very glad you're okay.
Yes.
Thank you for writing, Phil. Really appreciate it. Happy hunting. Let us know what you get. Write to us at Car Conclusion, everydaydrivertv@gmail.com. Top Tuesday's Car Conclusions. Car debates. Moving on to car debate number 2.
We are putting down one heck of a podcast here. We're thoroughly enjoying ourselves. This is awesome.
Michael S. writes his wife needs her first car. She's been living in the city most of her life, so she's barely touched a car since she first learned how to drive.
Wow.
Life changes mean they're looking to get her a commute car that will help her learn driving dynamics, but she needs something appropriate to show up to her job with. She's a fairly visible person in a community that won't appreciate something particularly playful or out of the norm, which means a BRZ 86 won't be taken very well.
So sports cars, luxury cars, look-at-me cars.
No Aston Vantage.
Exactly. No, probably not. I mean, the convertible. Who doesn't like an Aston convertible? But no, seriously. The reality
what
here
about
is
a Hellcat-powered something.
Cars that are notice me are wrong here.
Michael says, roads. The commute will be 15 to 20 minutes of local roads. Weather. He says snow happens in this area of the country. They're in, looks like New York. So they're halfway between New York City and upstate New York. He says winter tires can probably address most things, but the roads can be narrow with unforgiving shoulders.
Okay.
We have experienced that at night.
Yes, we have. It was dark. It was super dark around Watkins Glen. Yeah.
Michael drives a BRZ, which is really small when they go somewhere for a few days. Plus, they're planning for a family, so something that could be a family car is a plus.
Can I stop and rant here right now?
I
Buy the
knew
car
it.
for where you are, not where you think you're going to be.
Knew that was
you
coming.
can sell the car.
You're right. You're right.
You can also, here's the thing. I don't know if you've heard this about biology, but when you get pregnant, you're still 9 months away from having the child.
You're right.
You're almost a year away. Okay? When a couple says, we're trying, you check in next year to see if they succeeded. Okay? We're that far away. You could sell the car during that period, but you know what else you could do? You could bring the child home because they're really little when they first start. You could bring them home in a car that's not right for when they get big, and you could buy a car later. Anyway, sorry. I'm done now.
Michael says the budget is about $15,000. If they can get something reliable, that they won't need a noticeable line in their budget for the car needed stuff. If they need to push $20,000 to make that happen, they'll try. I'm going to try past that.
Of course you are. Yeah.
Ideally, something they won't care too much if a fender gets scratched in the first years of real driving experience. They want an automatic transmission. No Volkswagen or German cars. I love how you just Volkswagen and German cars. They're all about the same because Volkswagen owns Porsche,
A lot.
Audi,
Seat.
a lot of German.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Yes.
Honda seats seem to hurt Michael's back, so no Hondas.
All right. Okay.
This will be the family car. And we were helpful, apparently, in pushing Michael towards his BRZ, which he loves.
Glad you like it. That's phenomenal.
What suggestions do we have for his wife? Also, thinking about the Mazda 3, but you know what? They make it in a sedan, which looks professional and smart and more expensive than it is.
I agree with that. Mazda 3's on my list.
Sedan.
Yes, that's good. I have the hatch on there too. What do they want? Because fundamentally good dynamics on those cars.
Yes.
Excellent to drive. Feels luxurious, but nobody's going to go, oh my gosh, you drive a Mazda? And look down their nose like, we're paying you too much.
Exactly.
You're way too flashy to drive a Mazda.
Too much fun over there.
No, that's fine.
You've got the BRZ. He's got the BRZ.
Yeah, love it.
Mazda 3 sedan. Man, those are great. We compared that against the Mercedes, the A-Class.
Yeah, we did.
Much less money. Still
surprisingly
very,
good.
very
really,
excellent.
really solid. I
yeah,
like it. It's
great
good
to drive. And then I thought of this other choice. It's called the Corolla Cross Hybrid. But I
Look
thought,
at you. Interesting. Okay.
But I restrained myself because if we're going to Corolla Cross Hybrid, the only reason I would suggest that is to stay within your budget. If we're going to go out of your budget,
which we are apparently, yeah.
We haven't even driven this car yet, but we have seen it up close in person. It is the new 2026 Toyota RAV4.
The updated one is probably worth looking at. You're
it's
probably
the right
Yeah,
size.
yeah,
It meets every qualification. It's probably
budget,
going to be decent to drive.
Probably, yeah.
You can get the sport version. They've come out with GR Sport now. I
don't know. Yeah.
We'll see how that does, but they're going to sell a jillion of these cars. Get yourself the new RAV4. Go down to your dealer, RAV4, the 2026 RAV4, and that is the only reason to buy new. The size is great. RAV4, the new one, the brand styling is excellent, fun, cool. We haven't even driven, and I know it's going to be excellent.
You blew out the budget, but I do like it.
But yeah.
In addition to the Mazda 3, I have another idea, and then I have what I actually think is your car, Michael, for you and your wife.
Okay.
The other idea I have for you is what is in your budget from the Volvo 60 lineup, the S60, V60, XC60. That's the sedan, wagon, or SUV of the 60 size, okay? They make sizes of cars. There's the used to be the 40, 60, 90. Anyway, they're all going to be a little bit used because to get them to your budget, but the seats in Volvos are superb. The safety tech is awesome.
Yeah.
They feel luxurious. They drive well, and nobody looks at a Volvo and goes, "Oh my gosh, you're driving way too much." It's a Volvo. It's fine. It's fine.
So you're thinking 60?
I think the 60s.
But aren't those too much?
Well, but they're going to get used. They're going to be used ones.
Even used? Can you do 20?
I'm sure you can. You can go back far enough that you can get all of those in the mid-20 range. That's absolutely possible. But I really think the answer, because I thought about this, upstate New York, all weather, needs to be straightforward to drive, not too big, protecting her as a driver who hasn't driven much. Maybe it gets dinged. We don't worry about it. Subaru Crosstrek. That's the answer. The answer is Subaru Crosstrek. All-wheel drive, You can take it down any back road. It gets dinged in the winter. Nobody cares. It's a Subaru. Nobody's going, wow, that's ostentatious. It's a Subaru. Here's the thing. You could get the crazy orange Subaru Crosstrek, and they're still not going to judge that. It's a Subaru Crosstrek.
That's true.
That is everything you want it to be. In fact, my only critique
on
it,
having
Michael,
too much fun.
Seriously, my only critique on it, Michael, might be the fact that I actually think Subarus are so safety conscious, they can sometimes overly stress out a stressed driver. Because they are so you have to turn some stuff off to kind of calm the car down. Like, I know I'm nervous, but you car, be less nervous, okay? That does help. But I think Subaru Crosstrek gets it done, and we're finished.
That's really good. Michael, thank you for writing. Car conclusion, incoming. If you haven't already bought something, we're very curious to hear what you think.
We're going to do car conclusions with every podcast going forward. Helps us meter them out. We like doing the rants. Well, obviously, we're ranting quite a bit on this one. The car debates, the car conclusions as well. There's so much going on.
All right. Car conclusion number 1 from Colin Cutler, who has been on Utah meetups with us.
He's heavily involved in our Discord. He's one of our patrons. Thank you, Colin, for being involved with us for so long.
Well, he writes to us a car conclusion. They had their second child. He and his wife had their second child in December 2024. He wanted a car with back seats. And in 2021, he had bought a Z4. I think we might have influenced that decision.
We definitely did, yes.
But at this point, they've made their 2-car garage of his 03 Z4 and his wife's 2014 Passat TDI work well in their life. So they've got their 3-year-old daughter for errands in the Z4. She's been sitting shotgun since she was 4 months old.
It's fantastic.
Of course, Colin says we should get a fun car with back seats. Then he can take the entire family. And ever since their first kid was born, his wife has rarely been in the Z4. Originally, Colin was debating a Mustang GT, Camaro SS1LE, or some other 2+2, maybe a hot hatch like a Focus RS.
Sure.
Not sure what he would have ended up with, but he said those are all expensive at $25,000 plus. Due to price, the Z4 replacement always seemed in the distant future. In addition, his wife runs her business from home, takes care of the kids. He has no immediate need to pick up both kids at once, so his car shopping has been laid back.
This is why you put this in here. I'm reading along and I got to this. It's like, we're talking about this. We are talking about this because Colin, doing what we all do, searching for cars when you kind of need a car, don't really need a car, shouldn't even be shopping for a car. He was scrolling along on Facebook Marketplace and saw a special edition, wait for it, Saab 9.3 wagon. Listed in a wagon group, because of course we're wagon people, right? He had no idea it existed, so he just shared it with a close friend that's on the Everyday Driver Discord, just like, isn't this cool? And that person freaked. I don't even know who that was. That person freaked. And they said, you must call this seller right now. So Colin's like, oh, okay, apparently it's cool. He calls the seller, and in classic Saab fashion, the seller could not stop talking about how unique this car was. And so the next day, Colin found himself sending a security deposit and buying a plane ticket to buy this car sight unseen.
The car is an 08 Saab 9.3 Turbo X Sport Combi with the 6-speed manual.
That is a very rare car. He goes into just how rare.
Manual, all-wheel drive, turbo 2.8-liter V6 sport trim wagon. The Turbo X was a single-year special edition commemorating 30 years of Saab turbocharging cars, 280 horsepower, 295 foot-pounds of torque, 1-inch lower suspension, tri-spoke wheels, collared turbo boost gauge that harkens back to the old 900 turbos, other stuff too. Debuted an all-wheel drive system which has an LSD capable of sending 80% of the power to the rear wheels, like a Focus RS or a Golf R.
But wait, there's more, because this seller also told him, doesn't Daniel have one of these?
He does.
Okay, we'll get back to that.
Yes, he does have a sport Combi.
The seller did tell him all of the following. You can see why Colin got convinced. There were 600 Turbo X's brought to the U.S. Of that 600, 125 were wagons, and of those wagons, only 45 were manual. This is the kind of stuff, Colin, don't do this. This is the kind of stuff that winds up on a laminated board beside your car at Cars and Coffee. Do not do this. This is the kind of stuff.
Please come talk to me about my car.
Read the laminated board, and then you buy the little car that's the version of your car that sits on top of the car. Ugh. Okay. The takeaway here is, Colin, you found a very rare, cool wagon that's a Saab, but it is a black hole of sucking you into Saabdom. Please go on, Paul.
Although he says this is a GM platform, so parts aren't as difficult to find as Colin originally thought. He'll fit into the Saab ownership type because he has fun spending hours cross-referencing Saab parts to GM parts.
Oh,
or sourcing difficult parts, but it's the Saab community, and that's what my brother-in-law Daniel loves.
Yes.
He loves the community, and they're very vocal, and they're involved in each other's lives, and they talk about...
Who in the family has the Sport Combi? They have one, don't they?
Daniel's is the Sport Combi. Nico has the 9.5, also wagon. It's an Aero wagon, also very rare. It's got the slide-out picnic table and everything.
That's what I was looking for.
None of them ever had.
Okay.
And then they've got the Sven, which is the 93 900 turbo convertible.
So we're actually saying that this podcast knows 2 of the total 45 manual Sport Combis in the world?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to put that on a plaque to put beside our podcast. Yeah.
My sister Julie just got a 9.3 wagon, which I haven't even seen yet. That's the
They got another one?
Well, that's the 5th one because the first one died and ejected all of its oil, and Daniel gave it away. And so
unbelievable.
Then they've got 4 on the property.
Here's the thing. You sent us photos. You did find a very rare, very unique, very interesting wagon. What a great, really cool dad car, parent car. I have to applaud you. We're making fun because of the Saab stuff that happens here.
And I can't.
But bravo, man. Really cool.
If I had 4 Porsches on the property, I'd be like, yeah.
And? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, what's your problem?
That's a good point. You really wouldn't worry about it, would you? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Car conclusion number 2 is from Tomas B. He's been listening to the latest podcast, and his car debate was featured on episode 876.
Wow.
When he was selling his Jota MX-5 GT, the MK 3.75. Unfortunately, they lost their first daughter in pregnancy April 2024, which was a world-changing moment.
Oh, my gosh. And
understandably, cars were not even in his thoughts. It took them both a long time to get back to some level of normality.
Yikes.
Thomas, we're very gutted for you. Hoping things are okay.
They are. They have turned, and they both slowly started to come to terms with it late last year and kind of restart their lives, put things in perspective in a big way. Now, this is interesting. It put things in perspective and lit a fire under him to pursue his dream car. So once they kind of got emotionally settled, what dawned on Thomas is that kind of you have right now, very interesting. So all of a sudden they thought their life was going perfect, and then they had this curveball, and then they realized you never know what's around the corner. That is so hard to learn and then act on. So he went out and bought a 2016 BMW M2 manual, and he said full dealer history, 40,000 miles. It's the car he's always wanted and hoping for. And here's what's fascinating. He said now that they're expecting their second child due any time, right around the time he wrote this, he said he's perfectly willing to sell the M2 if he needs to when they have this second child. This was that you only live once moment. It was this big pivot point of, I could get this car now. I don't know how long I'll have it. Let me have this experience. He went and got this M2. What's interesting is he says if this second child is born safe as they expect, and we hope so, Tom.
Yes.
He would be over the moon to sell the M2. He's like, I had that life experience. I love that you embraced the life experience lesson out of this tragedy. That is so hard, and I feel for you guys. I love that you went out and bought an M2 because you're like, well, we could do that now. And the biggest thing I want to say to you, Tom, and everybody else is it's so hard, and I have missed many. It is so hard to get a new opportunity that you already let go by. In all kinds of life. The opportunity is in front of you right now. And you go, because you think, I'll have that opportunity again. Whatever that opportunity is we're talking about, cars, life choices, I'm going to have a life experience, I could take a cool trip. The chances of the opportunity coming back around are slim to none. If it's an opportunity you would like to take, the reason to not take it shouldn't be, it'll come by again later. And you bought an M2. And life is and family are growing, so you may sell an M2. Great conclusion. Love it.
We've got so many more conclusions to do. Thomas, thank you for writing. Wishing you all the best. Colin, thank you for writing. Congratulations on your cool Saab. It is a cool car. It looks great. Really appreciate you guys writing the debates. Keep them coming because we've got so many to get through. We've got a backlog, but we're working forward on them. And we apologize if we can't get to yours, but keep all those coming. And we love how you guys are thinking. Thank you so much.
There is a new series we're going to do on this podcast. We're subtitling it, Did You See This? Where I'm going to talk about movies and story and stuff that I think you guys should see, and Paul's going to talk about design and watches and architecture and stuff that you guys should take notice of. I don't have a big one yet, but I have a quick note, because by the time you hear this, the F1 movie will be out. We have not seen it yet, but it will have been out. So we'll talk about it in the future. I do want to talk about the F1 movie after I've seen it. But it is directed by Joseph Kosinski, who directed Top Gun Maverick.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
The connective tissue of Tom Cruise is very interesting in Top Gun Maverick, because a movie you should see if you haven't seen it is called Oblivion. Joseph Kosinski also directed that. It's based on a graphic novel that was never published. In 2007, when there was a writer's strike, which happened recently again, he couldn't hire a writer to try to write his script, so he made it as a graphic novel comic and started shopping the comic. Got the movie greenlit off of this comic that was unpublished that he had made. So it's never been made into a graphic novel that was ever actually published.
Wait, Joseph did the graphic
Joseph did the graphic novel. He probably hired an artist, but the point is he built the story as a graphic novel, and he used that to shop the film, got the film made. It stars Tom Cruise, Morgan Freeman. If you haven't seen Oblivion, go see it. It was a kind of a sci-fi.
It's really good.
It's worth it. It's worth it. It is a very good sci-fi film. It's post-apocalyptic. Is it perfect? No, but it is a really fun movie. And once you see that, you can totally go, oh, I see. You hired him for Top Gun. And now he's done the F1 movie. So see Oblivion if you haven't seen it, and there'll be more movie conversations going on. But, we have questions, and at some point we're going to wrap up this podcast.
Jumping into questions, thank you guys so much. We posted your 1-year Lotus Emira review,
yes.
And that included the inline 4 review, all within the same piece. So we drove that. If you haven't seen it, it's on our original channel, just like this podcast. Damn it, Patton recently moved to Bentonville, Arkansas. He says, self-proclaimed mountain biking capital of the U.S.
Huh, okay.
We take issue.
Yes, other places have declared that, including where we live in Park City. But moving on.
Andrew found out his neighbor 2 doors down has a C8 Z06. What is the best non-creepy way to befriend him? You just want to drive a C8 Z06.
No, see.
Maybe he listens to this podcast.
Maybe. Here's the thing. When you know he's home, pull up to his house in your car, which I happen to know is an 86. Park, don't walk down. I know he's 2 doors down. Like coming back from errands. Park your car in front of his house and go to the door and start the conversation with, I see you're a car guy. Because that is not common. Car people with cars they love are not common. You don't want to be the weird guy from 2 doors down that just go, I saw you got a cool car. You pulled up in a cool car.
True.
You have your cool car out front.
You
want to start a conversation as a car person to car person. And also say this, he might not be much of a car person. Probably is, but might not be. Might just be like, I always wanted one, and that's the end of the conversation. But I bet it's not. If you start with your car out front, I think it'll help.
That's excellent. No, I like that.
Aaron's asking about Hooked on Driving Track Days. He's got a G8 GXP that he wants to bring to an event soon, but he doesn't have it quite ready yet. So he's asking, do we have a spectator policy? Come is the policy. You'll have to sign the waiver to get in the gate.
Sign the waiver, but
come and you can take photos or whatever. There's no that big deal. If you want to get to certain places on the track, it's hard to just walk up and get a media badge and go weird places. But from the paddock, hang out with people, see the cool cars, take photos, you're welcome.
On Instagram, File Photography asks how long we think it'll be, if ever, until a company forms and starts giving the Mazda MX-5, the Miata, the Singer Porsche treatment. Since we've been talking about Singer Porsches, I don't know that that's ever going to happen, because the early Miatas are such scrappy. They're known as scrappy and cheap. If you gussy them up and make them... There's already companies that make them drive amazing. There's a lot of companies that will sell you parts, but the whole point was to get in cheap. I don't know that the 911 ever had the aura of cheap. Get in cheap. Did it?
Yeah, I think you're right. No,
did.
You know what I think you've touched on here? The Miata, while great, is not aspirational. One day I'll have a Miata. You just generally go buy a Miata.
You go buy a Miata.
You buy a used one because you want to make it a track thing. You buy a used one because it's cheap. You got to a place where you retired. You want a cheap little convertible. People just go buy a Miata. They don't I've always wanted a Miata my entire life, and I've been saving up for a Miata. And I love them. I love them. You just go buy a Miata.
Yeah,
the 911 is this aspirational thing. One day maybe I'll reach high enough. And that's, I think, the reason that the Singer and that kind of stuff is let us sell you the best version of the thing you've dreamed about. I don't know that the Miata is ever going to be that.
But the best version of that Miata could be made for probably $1,500 in parts on top of the cost of the car.
Maybe.
And it'll handle great.
The Miata that you're going to love would be inexpensive.
And that's the one you want.
Yes, exactly.
Which is the whole point.
Totally.
To save money and stay cheap.
That's good.
So no is the answer.
I think we've walked our way to no. That's where we ended up. Yep. Did you see Carju makes a comment here? He says the 2-year-old Maserati Grecale Trofeos are apparently now $60,000. He's asking if we would get one of those over a Macan. I think it's fascinating. You're taking more of a dice roll on reliability, but a Grecale for that cheap is kind of like,
That actually made me think. For $60,000? But it is that Nettuno engine, so it's a brand new engine.
It's a very cool engine. We liked driving it.
Should be.
Who knows? Who knows? It's still and you could get back into a Maserati. There you go. For the price of a Macan, you could have a Maserati SUV.
But see, I'd only want the Trofeo. I don't want the Grecale without the Trofeo.
Yeah, I know.
Anything. I want it all Trofeo.
Trofeo only, everybody. Yes. That's where we are.
On Facebook, James Lang says, "Hi, Todd and Paul. What styling features make the difference between boxy good and boxy bad design? Boxy good, like 70s Volvo and classic Range Rover Land Rover styling. What thinkest thou?" Thank you for writing. New Jaguar.
Yeah.
Boxy bad.
Yeah. The big weird pink thing they released with the new logo and all of that badness. Yeah.
Boxy bad.
And it's like weird rounded off boxy too, which is even weirder. It's like boxes with radii on them. It's very, very strange.
James, it comes down to the portion of the boxes, but it also comes down to the details too, because the details on that Jag, and I just saw another spy shot, not spy shot, but just another rendering. No. Boxy bad.
Did you saw the pictures where they actually like drove it through New York and it looked like a mistake? It looked like somebody was like testing a video game, like the actual car's not rendered, but the rest of the world is real. It's like, what is going on there?
Yeah.
All bad, yeah.
But rangies, for the most part, boxy good.
Yeah, and they have the nice radiuses on the box
very nice
too,
radius, and the details are so important. Paid attention to details, proportion, because the boxes, it's not just boxes.
I like it.
Rolls-Royce Cullinan, boxy bad.
Very good. Very good.
It's like a Manx cat in the back. It's like trimmed off.
What happened here? Yeah.
Half the box. No. I realized they didn't call me to ask.
They didn't, but he asked you, so that's good. That's excellent. Yeah.
James, thank you for writing. All right, so we'll have more questions in the future. We will table this conversation for now. Thank you guys.
Yes, thank you
for listening, writing, and now watching.
Which is crazy.
That's
we hope you are watching.
Cool.
Please share the podcast on whatever platform you're actually listening or watching with it. We'd love for you to share it. Tell other people that it exists. Again, this is podcast 1001. We're going to stop counting, but it's the podcast 1001, and we've got a lot more coming. Look for us all the Tuesdays going forward. We can't wait to be back
for
with
sure. Until then, cheers, everyone.